How to improve your English. A story. Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Sarah who lived in a small town called Greenfield. She was kind, curious, and always eager to learn new things. One day, Sarah realized she wanted to speak English fluently because it was an international language. Many books, movies, and opportunities were in English, and she dreamed of traveling the world, making friends from different countries, and reading her favorite books in their original language. But Sarah's English wasn't very good. She had learned some basic words and phrases in school, but whenever she tried to have a conversation, she felt nervous. She would often stumble on words or forget what to say. This made her shy, and she didn't practice as much as she wanted to. One afternoon, while walking through the park, she met an old man named Mr. Evans. He was sitting on a bench reading a thick English novel. Curious, Sarah approached him and asked, "How can you read such a big English book?" "English is so difficult," Mr. Evans smiled kindly. "English is just like any other skill, Sarah. It's something you can improve with practice. If you truly want to learn, I can guide you." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Yes, I want to learn. But how can I improve my English?" Mr. Evans paused and then said, "There are many ways to improve your English. Let me tell you a story of how you can master it, step by step. Step 1. Start with simple words and phrases. Mr. Evans began, "First, you need to build your vocabulary. Every language begins with words, and the more words you know, the easier it becomes. Do you remember how you learned your first language as a child?" Sarah thought for a moment and nodded. "I learned by listening to my parents and repeating the words they said." "Exactly," Mr. Evans replied. "You didn't start with complex words, right? You learned simple ones like cat, dog, eat, sleep. The same goes for English. Start with the basics, simple words and phrases that are used every day. For example, hello, thank you, goodbye, where is the bathroom? Practice saying them out loud and try to use them in conversations." Sarah understood. She realized that she had been trying to learn too many complicated words at once, which only made her feel overwhelmed. Instead, she decided to focus on the simpler, more common words. Step 2. Listen to English every day. Next, Mr. Evans continued, you should surround yourself with English as much as possible. You see, language isn't just about speaking, it's about listening too. When you listen to English often, your brain starts to recognize the sounds and patterns. This helps you learn how to pronounce words correctly and understand how sentences are formed. Sarah was curious. How can I listen to English every day? There are many ways, Mr. Evans said. You can watch English movies or TV shows with subtitles, listen to English songs, or find podcasts or YouTube videos in English. At first, you may not understand everything, and that's okay. Just focus on the words you know and try to guess the meaning of the others. Sarah liked this idea. She loved watching movies and listening to music, and she realized that these activities could help her learn English while having fun. Step 3. Speak English as much as possible. Mr. Evans then said, the next step is very important. You need to practice speaking English. Many people are afraid to speak because they think they'll make mistakes, but making mistakes is how you learn. The more you speak, the more confident you will become. Sarah was nervous. But what if people laugh at my mistakes? Don't worry about that, Mr. Evans reassured her. Most people won't laugh. They will appreciate that you're trying. And even if someone does laugh, use it as a chance to improve. You can practice speaking with friends, family, or even yourself. Talk to yourself in English when you're alone, or describe things you see around you in English. The more you use the language, the better you'll get. Sarah realized that she had been too worried about making mistakes. She promised herself that she would try to speak English more often, even if it was just talking to herself. Step 4. Read English books and articles. Another important way to improve your English is by reading, Mr. Evans explained. Reading helps you learn new words and understand how sentences are structured. Start with simple books like children's books or short stories. As you get better, you can move on to more difficult texts. Sarah loved reading and she was excited to start reading English books. She asked, "But what if I don't understand a lot of the words?" When you come across a word you don't know, try to guess its meaning from the context, Mr. Evans advised. But don't stop reading to look up every new word. Finish the sentence or paragraph first, and then, if the word is important to the story, look it up in a dictionary. This way, you'll keep the flow of your reading and enjoy the story more. Sarah agreed. She decided to start reading simple books and work her way up to more challenging ones. Step 5. Write in English. The final step, Mr. Evans said, is to practice writing in English. Writing helps you organize your thoughts and improve your grammar. You can start by writing short sentences or keeping a journal in English. Write about your day, your thoughts, or anything that interests you. Don't worry too much about making mistakes. Over time, you'll get better. Sarah thought about it. She wasn't very confident in her writing skills, but she liked the idea of keeping a journal. It would be a great way to track her progress. Bonus tip: be patient and consistent. Before Sarah left, Mr. Evans gave her one final piece of advice. Learning a language takes time and effort. There will be days when you feel frustrated or think you're not improving, but don't give up. Be patient with yourself and stay consistent. If you practice a little bit every day, you'll see progress over time. Sarah smiled. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she felt ready for the challenge. With Mr. Evans's guidance, she now had a clear plan to improve her English. Sarah's journey to mastering English. Over the next few months, Sarah followed Mr. Evans's advice. Every morning, she spent a few minutes learning new words. She would look around her room and try to name the objects in English. Bed, window, book, lamp, she would say out loud. Slowly, her vocabulary grew. In the afternoons, she listened to English podcasts while going for a walk. At first, she couldn't understand much, but she focused on the words she knew and guessed the meaning of others. Each day, she understood a little more, and this made her feel more confident. In the evenings, Sarah practiced speaking. She started by talking to herself, describing what she was doing. "I am making tea," or "I am reading a book." Soon, she began speaking English with her friends at school. They laughed a little at her mistakes, but they were supportive and even helped her learn new words. Reading became one of Sarah's favorite activities. She started with simple English books and gradually moved on to more challenging ones. She enjoyed reading about different adventures, and she learned many new words along the way. Whenever she came across a word she didn't know, she would try to guess its meaning, and if it was important, she looked it up in her dictionary later. Sarah also started writing in English. She kept a journal where she wrote about her day, her thoughts, and her dreams. At first, her sentences were short and simple, but over time, they became longer and more complex. She made many mistakes, but she didn't let that stop her. Each mistake was a learning opportunity. Months passed, and Sarah noticed that her English had improved a lot. She could understand more of the English movies she watched. She could have simple conversations with her friends, and she could read books without feeling overwhelmed. Her confidence grew, and she was proud of the progress she had made. One day, Sarah met Mr. Evans in the park again. She was excited to tell him about her progress. "I've been practicing every day, and my English is so much better now," she exclaimed. Mr. Evans smiled. "I knew you could do it, Sarah. You've worked hard and it shows. Remember, learning never stops. Keep practicing, keep challenging yourself, and you'll continue to improve." Sarah nodded. She knew that learning English was a lifelong journey, but she felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. With her newfound skills, she felt like the world had opened up to her, and she couldn't wait to explore it. Sarah's new challenges. As the months turned into a year, Sarah's confidence in her English grew stronger. She could now hold conversations without hesitating, and reading English books had become one of her favorite hobbies. But even though she had made significant progress, Sarah knew there was still much to learn. She had reached a new stage in her journey, one where the challenges were more subtle but just as important. One afternoon, as Sarah was reading an English newspaper in the park, she realized that while she could understand most of the articles, there were still some phrases that confused her. The articles used idioms and expressions that didn't translate directly. What does it mean to let the cat out of the bag? She wondered. It seemed like the more she learned, the more there was to uncover. Determined to keep improving, Sarah decided to visit Mr. Evans again. She found him in the same spot on the park bench, this time reading a new book. "Mr. Evans," Sarah began, "I've been practicing every day just like you told me, and my English has improved so much. But now I'm struggling with some new challenges. There are phrases and expressions I don't understand. Can you help me?" Mr. Evans closed his book and smiled. "Ah, idioms and expressions. You've entered an exciting stage in learning English, Sarah. These are what we call the flavor of the language. Let me tell you a few ways you can tackle this new challenge. Step 6. Learn idioms and phrasal verbs. English is full of idioms, phrases that don't make literal sense but are used in everyday speech," Mr. Evans explained. "For example, you mentioned 'let the cat out of the bag.' It means to reveal a secret. Then there's 'break the ice,' which means to start a conversation in an awkward situation. These expressions are used all the time in conversations, books, and movies." Sarah nodded. She realized that understanding idioms would help her communicate more naturally in English. "Another tricky thing is phrasal verbs," Mr. Evans continued. "These are verbs combined with prepositions or adverbs like look up, give in, or run out of. The meaning of these combinations often changes from the individual words. For example, look up can mean to search for information, but look after means to take care of. The best way to learn these is by exposure. Listen, read, and practice. When you hear or see a new idiom or phrasal verb, write it down and try to use it in your conversations." Sarah thought this was a good idea. She decided to keep a notebook where she could write down idioms and phrasal verbs she encountered and practice using them in sentences. Step 7. Immerse yourself in conversations. One of the best ways to improve your understanding of these expressions is by engaging in real conversations with native speakers, Mr. Evans said. The more you speak and listen, the more natural these phrases will become to you. Try to find opportunities to talk to people who speak English fluently. This will help you get used to the rhythm and flow of the language. Sarah felt a bit nervous at the thought of speaking with native speakers, but she knew it would help her improve faster. She decided to look for English conversation groups in her town, where people from all over came together to practice speaking. I've also heard about online communities where people practice languages, Sarah said. Maybe I can join one of those. Absolutely, Mr. Evans replied. Online language exchanges are a fantastic way to connect with people from around the world. You can chat, text, or even have video calls with native English speakers who might be learning your language in return. It's a win-win situation. Sarah was excited by the idea. She made a note to explore online language exchange platforms and try speaking with people from different countries. Step 8. Understand different accents and dialects. Sarah had mostly been practicing with people who spoke with a neutral English accent. However, she knew that people from different countries and even different parts of the same country often had different accents. I've been watching movies from the UK and the US, and sometimes the accents are hard to understand, Sarah admitted. How can I get better at understanding different accents? Mr. Evans smiled. You're absolutely right, Sarah. English is spoken in many different ways around the world. There's American English, British English, Australian English, and many more, each with its own accent, vocabulary, and even grammar. The more you expose yourself to these variations, the better you'll understand them. Sarah had an idea. Maybe I can start watching movies from different countries and listen carefully to how people speak. That's an excellent idea, Mr. Evans said. You can also listen to radio stations or podcasts from different countries. At first, some accents might be hard to understand, but don't give up. The more you listen, the easier it will get. It's just like when you first started learning English. Your ears need time to adjust. Step 9. Practice advanced grammar. As Sarah continued practicing her speaking, listening, and reading, she realized that while her grammar had improved, there were still some advanced structures that confused her. Conditionals, passive voice, and reported speech were just a few examples. I'm struggling with some of the more advanced grammar, Sarah told Mr. Evans. How can I improve? Mr. Evans nodded. Advanced grammar can be tricky, but it's not impossible to master. The key is to practice in context. Instead of memorizing rules, try to notice how these grammar structures are used in real conversations, books, and articles. When you read a sentence in the passive voice or see a conditional sentence, take a moment to understand how it's used. Then, try using these structures in your own writing and speaking. Sarah decided to focus on one grammar point each week. She would look for examples of it in the books she read, the shows she watched, and the conversations she had. Then she would practice using that grammar point in her own sentences. Step 10. Keep pushing yourself with new challenges. Finally, Sarah, Mr. Evans said, the most important thing is to keep challenging yourself. You've come so far, but language learning is a lifelong journey. There will always be new words to learn, new expressions to understand, and new ways to improve. Don't settle for being good enough. Keep pushing yourself to get better. Sarah took these words to heart. She realized that her English learning journey wasn't just about reaching a destination. It was about enjoying the process of constant improvement. Whether she was watching a movie, reading a book, or having a conversation, every moment was an opportunity to learn something new. Sarah's continued progress. Over the next year, Sarah's English improved even more. She joined an online language exchange platform where she met people from all over the world. She had conversations with native English speakers from the UK, Australia, and Canada, each with their own unique accent. At first, it was difficult to understand some of them, but she kept practicing, and soon it became easier. She also became more comfortable using idioms and phrasal verbs in her conversations. Instead of saying, "I told the secret," she would say, "I let the cat out of the bag." Instead of "I stopped," she would say, "I gave up." These small changes made her English sound more natural, and her friends noticed the difference. Reading remained one of her favorite ways to learn. She started reading more complex novels, and each new book brought her closer to mastering the language. She even began writing short stories in English, and one day, she dreamed of publishing her own book, The Power of Persistence. One day, Sarah met Mr. Evans again in the park. She was eager to share her progress. "Mr. Evans," she said with a smile, "thanks to your advice, I've learned so much. I've been practicing with people from different countries. I understand more idioms, and I'm even writing my own stories in English." Mr. Evans looked at her with pride. "I knew you could do it, Sarah. Your journey is a testament to the power of persistence. You've worked hard, stayed consistent, and challenged yourself along the way." Sarah realized that learning English had changed her life. Not only had it opened up new opportunities, like meeting people from around the world and exploring different cultures, but it had also taught her the value of dedication and perseverance. As she walked away from the park that day, Sarah felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She knew that her journey wasn't over, but she was excited about the path ahead. With each new word she learned and each conversation she had, she was reminded that with hard work and a love for learning, anything was possible. And so, Sarah's story continued, one where every challenge was a stepping stone toward becoming the best English speaker she could be. Sarah's new ambitions. As Sarah continued to improve her English, she began to realize that mastering the language had opened up new possibilities she had never imagined. Her journey of learning had become more than just a personal goal. It had sparked a deeper curiosity about the world around her. Now that she could speak, read, and write more confidently, she wanted to explore even further. One day, while scrolling through her favorite online language exchange forum, Sarah noticed a post about an international conference on environmental issues, where participants from all over the world would be speaking in English. The conference was being held in the capital city, and it was a rare chance to meet people who shared her interests. Sarah had always been passionate about environmental protection. She often read articles about climate change, recycling, and wildlife conservation, but she had never thought about discussing these topics in English. The idea of attending a professional event filled with experts and speakers was exciting, but also intimidating. Sarah hesitated for a moment. "Am I ready for this?" she thought. She had been practicing English diligently, but she wasn't sure if she was prepared to participate in a formal setting where the conversations would likely be much more complex than casual discussions with friends. After some thought, she decided to take the leap. "If I don't challenge myself now, when will I ever be ready?" she said to herself. Step 11. Specialize your vocabulary. In preparation for the conference, Sarah knew she needed to improve her understanding of environmental vocabulary. While she was familiar with everyday English, she realized that professional or academic conversations would require her to learn specific terms related to the topics being discussed. She spent the next few weeks reading articles, watching documentaries, and listening to podcasts about environmental issues, all in English. Whenever she came across a new term like carbon footprint, biodiversity, or renewable energy, she wrote it down in her notebook. She also practiced using these words in sentences so they would come more naturally when she needed them. To challenge herself further, Sarah joined online discussion groups focused on environmental topics. These groups were filled with people from different countries, all speaking in English. At first, Sarah struggled to follow the fast-paced discussions, but as she participated more, she became more comfortable using the specialized vocabulary she had been learning. This helped her feel more confident that she could handle the technical language that might come up during the conference. Step 12. Prepare for public speaking. Sarah had always been a little shy about speaking in front of large groups, especially in English. The thought of standing in front of professionals, giving her opinion, or asking a question in English made her nervous. But she knew that if she wanted to fully engage at the conference, she needed to practice speaking confidently in public. One evening, Sarah visited Mr. Evans again. She shared her excitement about the upcoming conference, but admitted she was worried about her speaking skills. "I understand how you feel, Sarah," Mr. Evans said. "Public speaking is difficult, even in your native language, but the key to success is preparation. Start by practicing in front of a mirror. Focus on your pronunciation and clarity. Then, try recording yourself giving a short speech on a topic you care about. Listen to the recording and identify areas where you can improve." Sarah nodded, taking in his advice. She decided to practice by preparing a short talk about her favorite environmental topic, reducing plastic waste. She rehearsed in front of the mirror, paying attention to her pronunciation and pacing. After a few days, she felt brave enough to record herself speaking. Listening to her own voice was strange at first, but Sarah found it helpful. She noticed that she was speaking too quickly at times, and some words weren't as clear as she had hoped. So she slowed down her speech and worked on pronouncing each word more carefully. Little by little, her confidence grew. After a week of practice, Sarah felt ready to participate in the conference. She knew that even if she wasn't perfect, she had put in the effort, and that was what mattered. The conference experience. The day of the conference finally arrived. Sarah walked into the large, buzzing venue where people were talking in groups, exchanging ideas, and preparing for the presentations. The atmosphere was exciting, and Sarah felt both eager and a little nervous. As she listened to the first few speakers, Sarah was surprised by how much she could understand. The environmental experts spoke clearly, and although some of the vocabulary was advanced, Sarah found that her weeks of preparation had paid off. She recognized terms and phrases she had learned, which helped her follow the discussions with ease. During one of the panel discussions on renewable energy, Sarah felt inspired to ask a question. She had never spoken in front of so many people before, but she reminded herself of the practice she had done. Her heart was racing, but she raised her hand anyway. When the moderator called on her, Sarah stood up. "My question is about the role of developing countries in adopting renewable energy," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "How can we support these countries in transitioning to sustainable energy sources, considering the financial and technological challenges they face?" The room was quiet as the panelists considered her question. Sarah felt a rush of pride. She had asked a thoughtful, relevant question, and she had done it in English. One of the experts responded, acknowledging the importance of her question, and gave a detailed answer. As he spoke, Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment wash over her. Not only had she participated in the conference, but she had also contributed to the conversation. Step 13. Reflect and learn from experiences. After the conference, Sarah realized how much she had grown in her English learning journey. From the girl who once hesitated to speak simple sentences, she had transformed into someone who could engage in complex discussions on important global issues. She felt proud, but knew there was still more to learn. Sarah spent the next few days reflecting on her experience. She replayed the conversations in her head, thinking about what went well and where she could improve. She remembered a few moments when she had struggled to find the right word or had misunderstood a speaker. But instead of feeling discouraged, she saw these moments as opportunities to learn. Every experience, whether it goes perfectly or not, is a chance to grow, Sarah thought. She decided to make a habit of reflecting on her English interactions. After every conversation, meeting, or event, she would ask herself, "What did I learn? What can I improve next time?" Step 14. Stay motivated and set new goals. With the success of the conference behind her, Sarah knew she couldn't stop there. English had become more than just a subject for her to study. It had become a tool that allowed her to connect with the world, share her ideas, and make a difference. But Sarah also understood the importance of staying motivated. Language learning is a lifelong journey, and without setting new goals, it's easy to lose momentum. She decided to set herself a new challenge: to start a blog in English where she would write about environmental issues. This way, she could combine her passion for the environment with her desire to improve her English writing skills. By writing regularly, she would continue expanding her vocabulary and refining her grammar, while also sharing her ideas with a global audience. She also set a personal goal to attend another international conference the following year, this time as a speaker. The idea of giving a full presentation in English still made her nervous, but she knew that with time and practice, she could do it. Sarah's ongoing journey. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah's blog gained readers from all over the world. She received comments and questions from people in different countries, and this pushed her to keep improving her writing. She read books, articles, and papers in English to stay informed about environmental topics and learn new ways to express herself. Her public speaking also improved. She joined local organizations where she could give short talks in English, and each time she felt a little more comfortable standing in front of an audience. Sarah's journey was far from over, but she embraced every challenge with enthusiasm. She knew that learning English was not just about mastering grammar or memorizing vocabulary. It was about constantly evolving, setting new goals, and pushing herself beyond her comfort zone. And as she continued on this path, Sarah realized that learning a language had not only changed her mind, it had changed her life. Through English, she had gained confidence, made connections with people around the world, and found her voice in a global conversation. With each step forward, she knew there were still many adventures ahead, but Sarah was ready for them all. She had discovered the power of persistence, curiosity, and a love for learning, and that was the greatest lesson of all. Final reflection. Sarah's journey is a reminder that language learning is an ongoing process one filled with both challenges and triumphs. Each new experience, whether attending a conference, writing a blog, or speaking in public, brings opportunities to grow. By setting new goals, staying curious, and embracing every opportunity to learn, anyone can continue to improve and achieve their language dreams, just like Sarah did. Some detailed tips for learners based on Sarah's story and experience with improving English. These tips offer practical advice and explanations for each step of the language learning journey. 1. Set clear, realistic goals. Explanation. Learning a language is a long-term process, and it's important to set specific, achievable goals. Instead of saying, "I want to be fluent," break it down into smaller, manageable goals. For example, I want to be able to introduce myself confidently in English within 1 month. I want to read a short book in English within 3 months. I want to give a short presentation in English by the end of the year. Why this helps? Setting clear goals keeps you motivated and focused. It helps you measure your progress and gives you a sense of achievement when you reach each milestone. Second, practice consistently. Explanation. Consistency is key in language learning. It's better to practice a little bit each day rather than doing long, intense sessions once a week. This helps you retain information better and build long-term habits. Here are a few ways to incorporate English into your daily routine. Spend 15 to 30 minutes reading an English article or book. Watch 10 to 20 minutes of an English show or listen to a podcast. Speak out loud in English for a few minutes daily, even if it's just practicing phrases or sentences. Keep a daily journal in English to practice writing. Why this helps? Consistent exposure to English helps build a stronger foundation and keeps your brain engaged with the language on a regular basis. 3. Focus on listening and comprehension. Explanation. Listening is one of the most crucial skills for mastering a language. It helps you understand how native speakers naturally speak, including pronunciation, rhythm, intonation, and informal phrases. By actively improving your listening skills, you'll become more familiar with how English sounds in real-life situations. Here's how to improve your listening skills. Watch movies, shows, and documentaries in English. Start with subtitles, and as you get more comfortable, try watching without them. Listen to podcasts or radio shows. Choose topics you enjoy, whether it's news, comedy, or storytelling. This will keep you engaged and expose you to various accents and speaking styles. Use language apps that focus on listening. Apps like Duolingo, Babbel, or English listening apps can help you practice your skills. Why this helps? By listening regularly, you train your ear to understand different accents, tones, and speeds. This will help you in real conversations where people don't speak as slowly or clearly as in textbooks. 4. Speak as much as possible. Explanation. One of the best ways to improve your English is by speaking it as often as possible. Speaking helps you practice forming sentences, thinking quickly, and using the grammar and vocabulary you've learned. Even if you're shy or afraid of making mistakes, it's important to push yourself to speak. Ways to practice speaking. Language exchange programs. Find conversation partners, either locally or online, who want to practice English with you. In exchange, you can help them practice your native language. Join English-speaking clubs or events. Many communities or online platforms offer clubs where people come together to practice speaking. Talk to yourself. If you don't have a speaking partner, talk out loud to yourself. Practice saying your thoughts, describing your day, or making up dialogues. Why this helps? Speaking regularly builds your confidence and fluency. The more you speak, the more comfortable you become with the language, and over time, your mistakes will decrease. 5. Expand your vocabulary and learn in context. Explanation. To become more fluent in English, you need a strong vocabulary. Instead of just memorizing random words, learn them in context. This means understanding how and when to use new words in real situations. How to expand your vocabulary. Read widely. Reading books, articles, and blogs exposes you to new words in context. When you encounter unfamiliar words, look them up and write down how they are used in a sentence. Use flashcards. Apps like Anki or Quizlet let you create flashcards of new words, which you can review daily. Learn idioms and phrasal verbs. English is full of expressions that don't translate literally, such as break the ice or run out of time. Understanding and using these phrases will make you sound more natural. Why this helps? Learning vocabulary in context helps you remember how to use words correctly in sentences. You'll also build associations with other words and phrases, making your speech more fluent and natural. 6. Practice writing regularly. Explanation. Writing is a key skill that complements speaking, reading, and listening. It forces you to organize your thoughts, use correct grammar, and apply your knowledge of vocabulary. Regular writing practice will sharpen your overall language skills. Ways to practice writing. Start a journal. Write about your day, thoughts, or experiences. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just focus on practicing. Write essays or short stories. Choose topics that interest you and write short essays or stories. You can also set writing challenges for yourself, such as writing an opinion on a current event or reviewing a book or movie. Join writing forums. Participate in English language forums or communities where you can write and receive feedback from others. Why this helps? Writing forces you to slow down and think about the structure of the language. It helps reinforce grammar rules, new vocabulary, and idiomatic expressions. Over time, your writing will become clearer and more precise. 7. Embrace your mistakes. Explanation. Many learners are afraid of making mistakes, but mistakes are an essential part of the learning process. Each mistake is an opportunity to understand something new and correct your approach. Don't shy away from speaking or writing just because you're worried about errors. How to handle mistakes. Get feedback. Whether you're speaking or writing, ask someone, a teacher, tutor, or language partner, to give you feedback on your mistakes. Focus on common errors and work on improving them. Review your conversations or writing. After a conversation or writing session, take some time to think about what went well and what could have been better. This will help you understand your weak points and guide your future practice. Why this helps? By embracing mistakes, you'll become more open to trying new things and you'll improve faster. Correcting your mistakes helps you remember the correct usage for the future. 8. Immerse yourself in English explanation. The more you surround yourself with English, the faster you'll improve. Immersion doesn't necessarily mean moving to an English-speaking country. It can also mean creating an English-speaking environment wherever you are. Ways to immerse yourself. Change your phone and social media to English. Switch your devices and apps to English to get daily exposure to the language. Listen to English music. Pay attention to the lyrics and try to understand the meaning. This makes learning fun and connects you emotionally to the language. Watch English TV shows or movies. Choose genres you enjoy and try to watch without subtitles as you become more confident. Join English-speaking communities. Online forums, discussion boards, or social media groups can help you interact with English speakers on topics that interest you. Why this helps. Immersion gives you constant exposure to the language, helping you think in English and react naturally. It accelerates learning and improves all areas: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. 9. Focus on pronunciation and intonation. Explanation. Good pronunciation is essential for being understood and sounding more fluent. Even if you have a strong accent, clear pronunciation will make a big difference in how people perceive your language ability. Intonation, the rise and fall of your voice, is also important, as it conveys meaning beyond words. Ways to improve pronunciation. Shadowing technique. Listen to a native speaker and try to mimic how they speak, focusing on pronunciation, speed, and intonation. This can be done with short audio clips, movies, or podcasts. Record yourself. Record your voice speaking in English and listen to the playback. Compare your pronunciation with native speakers and make adjustments. Use apps for pronunciation practice. Apps like ielts or Pronunciation Power offer exercises to improve pronunciation. Why this helps. Improving your pronunciation will make your speech clearer and more confident. Good intonation will also help you sound more natural, making conversations smoother and more enjoyable. 10. Stay motivated and enjoy the process. Explanation. Language learning is a long and sometimes difficult journey, but staying motivated is crucial. Find ways to make learning enjoyable and meaningful to you, whether it's through hobbies, connecting with people, or achieving personal goals. Ways to stay motivated. Reward yourself for small victories. Celebrate when you reach a new goal, like completing a book in English or holding a conversation with a native speaker. Track your progress. Keep a journal or use an app to record your achievements and see how far you've come. Engage with your passions. Whether it's cooking, sports, or photography, find English content related to your hobbies. Learning becomes easier when you're genuinely interested in the subject matter. Why this helps. Staying motivated keeps you moving forward, even when the learning process feels slow. 11. Learn grammar in context, not just rules. Explanation. Understanding grammar is essential for constructing correct sentences, but learning grammar rules in isolation can be tedious and confusing. Instead, try learning grammar through examples and in the context of real-life language use. For example, while reading or listening, notice how native speakers use specific tenses, sentence structures, or prepositions. Pay attention to patterns. When you see or hear similar sentence structures repeatedly, you'll start to internalize the rules naturally. To practice, use language apps with contextual grammar exercises. Apps like Grammarly or English Grammar in use offer exercises where you can learn grammar by seeing how it's applied in actual sentences. Write and then self-correct. Write a paragraph in English and then check for grammatical mistakes. You can use tools like Grammarly for suggestions, or have a tutor review your work. Why this helps? Grammar and context helps you understand how the rules fit into the natural flow of conversation. It reduces the burden of memorization and instead helps you absorb grammar through repeated exposure. 12th, use language games to make learning fun. Explanation. Gamifying your learning process can make it more enjoyable and less of a chore. There are many language games available online that can help reinforce vocabulary, grammar, and sentence structure in a playful way. Types of games you can try. Word games. Try games like Scrabble, Boggle, or crosswords to boost your vocabulary. Quiz apps. Apps like Quizlet have flashcards and trivia quizzes that test your knowledge of words and phrases in an interactive way. Language challenges. Some apps and websites offer daily or weekly language challenges, encouraging you to complete specific tasks like creating sentences with new words or holding conversations. Why this helps? Games reduce the pressure and stress of learning while keeping you engaged. This method can turn dull activities like memorizing vocabulary into something you look forward to doing.